And before I explain to you how the sessions go, I want to explain to my audience where God has me and where he's taking me. So a lot of us, I have found, get frustrated in life because we are not intentional and because we are not spending time with God enough for him to let us know what season we are in, right? So we always say there's seasons, or this is not my season, but I don't think we actually, once again, we say these empty words, but not really knowing what it actually means. So for me, for instance, in prayer, the Lord revealed to me after I began to get frustrated with life, that I was in a season of sowing, right? And I feel like a lot of us do not maximize our season of sowing because we get frustrated, we get overwhelmed, we get anxious, and we give up, right? So in your season of sowing, you're doing just that. You're sowing, right? So from maybe June or March of last year to now, God has had me in my season of sowing. And when you're in your season of sowing, you're sowing seeds, which means for me, it was doing live prayer, which he still has me doing that regardless, but doing live prayer. It can be offering my services at a discounted or complimentary rate, right? It can be reaching out to people and offering to do a session with them at no additional cost at all because God just wants you guys to have a divine connection, right? It could have me going to speak at events for not as much or no charge at all, right? Because in your season of sowing, you are sowing, you are planting seeds, you are putting seeds in the ground. That's what you're doing, right? So right now you may be going live every single day talking about your business, right? Or you may be sending out, like when I wrote my book, I was in a season of sowing. So there were a couple of people that the Lord had me just giving my book to for free, right? So you may be in a season of sowing where you're, giving out your t-shirts or giving out your workbooks for free. And you're like, God, why would you have me take time out of my life and create this content to be giving it out for free? Right? But that is what the season of sowing, and this is turning into a whole nother message, but God, I go where God leads me to because that means someone needed to hear it. But that means you're in a season of sowing. And a lot of times we don't maximize that season because we get overwhelmed and frustrated because we feel like we're doing so much for so little, right? In my season of sowing, I begin to get frustrated because once again, I did not spend time with God enough for him to tell me what season I was in, right? Because in your season of sowing, it feels like God is just giving you enough, right? When it comes to your bills, like he's just giving you enough to pay this bill today. He's just giving you enough to make it to the grocery store today to eat. He's just giving you enough gas in your car to get from one place to the next. He's just giving you enough. And you're like, but God, your word says that I'm supposed to be the head and not the tail. God, your word says that I'm supposed to have overflow. God, where is this overflow? You're not in your harvest season yet, right? So when you're in your sowing season, you're giving more because you're taking your seed and you're putting it in the ground. And that is where God has had me for the last year. Yes, you heard that right, a year. So your sowing season is not necessarily a day, a week, a month. Sometimes it will take a year depending on how large your harvest season is going to be, right? So if you feel like, God, I've been in this sowing season for so long, and I might get emotional because that's where I was frustrated, and I was saying, God, I show up when you tell me to show up. I'm present when you tell me to be present. God, I am doing what you told me to do, but I feel like I only have just enough. And he kept saying, guys, this was not on my calendar to do today, okay? And he just kept saying, Destiny, this is your sowing season. Just know that those things that you are sowing in the ground will grow as large as an apple tree. And an apple tree starts from a seed this big, but it grows into something magnificent that is able to feed the multitude, right? Whoo, Jesus, give me a word while I'm on here today. Amen. So I have been in my sowing season, and has it always been amazing? No, it has been frustrating sometimes. So God is now moving me. I said all that to say that, right? God is now moving me to my harvest season. So, in my sowing season, I wanted to take some time and really maximize it. I wanted to plant as many seeds as possible, even in my frustration. So I want to encourage you today that even in your frustration, to still show up. Even in your overwhelmness and anxiousness, still do what it is he's telling you to do, because that could be the seed that will change your life for the rest of your life, right? So in my sowing season, I've been able to connect with people that have gotten me in the room with people I never thought was possible, right? I've been able to connect with people and get them to speak on my podcast that I never thought were possible, right? Because even in my frustration, I have to continue to remind myself that what God has for me is better than anything I could ever do on my own. And even in my frustration, he still knows what he's doing, right? So